Should husband share location? Let me start off by saying I'm a stay-at-home mom to two kids, a toddler and a 3-month-old. I've been married for 5 years and we've been together for almost 10. Before getting married, my husband cheated on me and I chose to go to counseling with him and try to fix things. We got married and things have been great, and he seemed like he had completely changed. The last few days, I've felt off for whatever reason. In his previous F boy days, I would have this feeling and almost always find something on his phone. He usually is really consistent with talking to me on his lunch and on his way home. The last few days, he randomly stopped. This made me like, okay, WTF. We share locations with each other on the phone, and I saw he was out to eat the last few days during his lunch break. Okay, fine. He's also a cop in training this week and told me he doesn't know anyone in the class. So I thought it was strange that in addition to not talking to me at all during lunch, he's now going to sit down restaurants. I asked him and he said that his friend, who I've never heard of, is also at the school taking a different class. Okay, fine. Didn't seem legit to me, but I let it go. Finally, today I had enough. He told me he was going to get shoes after class. I look at his location and he's at a bar. I called him pissed because you couldn't he couldn't say he was stopping with a friend for drinks, then would be home. He said he's an adult and doesn't need to tell me his every move, but I feel like it's common courtesy to tell your spouse you'll be late and are getting drinks. If he would have told me, I wouldn't have been mad. I'm mad that he's not even communicating with me. He said I don't need to check his location and it is going off for good now, and I feel like he should share that with me if he has nothing to hide. Am I just being insecure? I told him I want that in a relationship and that's a deal breaker for me. He will not budge on the sharing. Should I take this as a huge red flag and plan my exit? I find this such an incredibly sad thread, just on every level. So, to answer the primary question of should I take this as a red flag, it probably is a red flag. But the red flag isn't that he doesn't want to share his location with you, which is, I mean, we can dig into that in a little bit. The red flag is more that he's lying to you about what he's doing. I can totally understand feeling that if your spouse needs to check on where you are at all times and you're turning on location, but turning on location doesn't just mean for safety or maybe because I think that there might be something wrong, but actually on a daily basis, I see what you're doing during your lunch break, for example. I can see why a normal person would respond to that by saying, hey, look, this level of control and the amount of monitoring that I'm under on a day-to-day basis is not good. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. I'm an adult man. I can make my own decisions. I can eat out at a restaurant if I want to. I do not have to account for every single thing that I do all the time. Obviously, that is coming from a normal, healthy relationship. Looking at this and reading this type of description, it does not sound to me like you have a good, healthy relationship. There is clearly a fundamental issue where the trust between you two was broken down for good reason, because if he cheated on you, then of course you don't trust him. And unfortunately, for all you say, hey, we went to counseling, we tried to fix things, we got married afterwards, things have been going great. Despite all of that, I would say that based on your behavior, you do not trust your husband at all. If the fact that he's going out to eat lunch with people, whoever they may be, is a reason for you to go, oh my God, he's doing something dodgy, then you obviously do not trust your husband. And it sounds to me like either he's getting a bit tired with being watched all the time, which I think is a normal human reaction. Because if you decided, especially if you've been married for 5 years and you say, okay, he cheated on you more than 5 years ago, and you moved on and you decided to have 2 babies together, and seemingly your relationship was going on the right, like heading in the right direction, but you are still watching his every move so closely, then it's very possible that he's just frustrated and done with that and is going, you know what, I'm like, I can't live like this. This is annoying. He is, and it's completely within his rights to turn off his location. I think this sharing location thing can be really unhealthy for people sometimes. And in this situation, it really seems to be quite unhealthy. What I find a little bit sad also around this part of, okay, he's a cop in training, he doesn't know anyone in the class. One of the ways that you would generally make connections with people, especially people that you don't know, and try to make friends, is to go out and have lunch together. So I actually really, I, I think that this thing of him going out at lunch was a red flag for you already. You treated it as one, and he already got annoyed at that. And this response of, okay, fine, didn't seem legit to me. Like, clearly you don't trust what he says when he says it to you. And there's not much that he can do to change your mind other than going back to his behavior of calling you every single day at lunch, I guess. And I think that that's also a bit overkill. This is not at all like, for me in my relationship with my husband, this would not be how we would interact with each other at all. If he asked me where I was, I would tell him where I was, but he wouldn't feel the need to ask me where I am on such a regular basis, especially if I'm out at work, or if I'm at school, whatever it is. If I'm in class, like whatever it is I'm doing, he does not need to follow up on what I'm doing to that extent, because he trusts that I'm not doing anything iffy. That said, yes, of course, lying is not okay. Lying in your relationship is not okay. The moment that lies are being told, there's a red flag there. But I think that the fundamental problem is that there's a lack of trust in this relationship. And that's the issue that's both causing the lying and causing the behavior that's manifesting itself as this really, really neurotic level of monitoring your spouse's whereabouts that I don't think is healthy. To read some of the comments, the very first person says, yes, it is a red flag. Sorry, but you do not have to put up with that. I wouldn't like it if my husband didn't tell me he's coming home late and he's out at a bar. Me and my husband do not share locations, do not share each other's locations, but he's always Snapchatting me everywhere he goes because he likes to. Your situation is different and you guys have each other's location for a reason. It definitely seems off. I would sit and speak with him, and if it doesn't get anywhere, don't put yourself through that. If you think he's cheating again, good luck. There is one element of this that I kind of do agree with. If you have a gut feeling that there's something iffy going on, then you're probably right. And especially if it's coming from previous experiences that you've had, then again, you're probably right. I say this, I understand that there are some people out there who kind of get stuck in their heads and who invent situations and who are a little bit deluded, but I actually don't think that's the case in the vast majority of situations. And the fact that he cheated on you once tends, if it were me, I would not have been able to continue a relationship with a person who cheated on me once. But definitely the fact that you chose to continue that relationship means that at some point you have to let that go and try to move on from it. That said, you're probably right, because I do believe intuition is rarely wrong. At the very least, you're definitely digging your finger into something that you should dig your finger into, and therefore it is worth talking to him about it in a lot more detail. But without focusing so much on the sharing location thing, but just the fundamental problem of, I'm worried about where you are. You seem to be lying to me, and I don't think that that's good. I've had an iffy feeling over the last period of time because your behavior has changed. What's going on? Like, what's happening? I think those are all of the reasons that you should be having that conversation, and the location thing is just one thing that you kind of get stuck on from that, because that's the only way that you seem to be able to validate your own feelings or to double check your own feelings with regards to not trusting him. The next comment is pretty much exactly what I said. There's obviously a lot of mistrust going on in this relationship. Not to say it isn't, not to say that it is unwarranted though. Clearly, he wasn't expecting you to be checking his location. He could be hiding or lying, or he could have honestly just forgot to tell you. If my husband was sitting down having lunch, I wouldn't have thought twice about it. Even if he was at a bar, I would have been like, okay, it wouldn't have necessarily bothered me. So I think that says a lot. Sounds like you may want to think about rejoining therapy. If counseling helped you the first time around, then hopefully it could help you the second time around. So that's not terrible advice. I would hope for you that your relationship can be salvaged, because when you have kids in a relationship, it's always great if you can salvage it. But yeah, this is a really unfortunate situation. The next couple of comments, especially if he has a history of cheating, I would also take it as a red flag. To be honest, I would show up at the bar he's at and catch him red-handed, record everything, be calm, don't do anything that would give him a hand up in custody hearings, then get an amazing lawyer and take him to the freaking cleaners. Good luck, hun. You and your babies deserve better. I always get a little bit sad when people approach these kinds of situations from this angle, and with this attitude of, now I'm going to make him suffer as much as possible. He doesn't deserve to have any contact with my children anymore. I get being suspicious, but I think this type of behavior makes the situation so much worse than it makes it better. Yes, if he's cheating on you, you should probably end the relationship. You do not need to end the relationship by going to court and having custody hearings and dragging each other through the mud and doing this, just raising your children in this kind of really high conflict environment with this relationship between you two that's really fractured and not great. I think ultimately you have to think of your children first, and it's fair enough to say, okay, maybe this relationship is not working and there are reasons there for that, and his behavior is a very very big part of why it wouldn't be working. But maybe think a little bit of your kids before you start doing this kind of cloak and daggers, let me sneak, follow his location, try and take pictures of him type of behavior, which is not very good for you either. Next comment says, I would never share my location with my husband or vice versa. I think it's a bit weird, to be honest. However, we trust each other 100%. I don't trust cheaters, so I wouldn't be with a cheater. Fair enough. I would agree with that as well. I would not be with a cheater. But the first reply to this says, I do it for safety reasons. You never know. I think fair enough. Honestly, the one time I properly wanted to share my location with my husband, I was out hiking, and I was out hiking while 6 months pregnant, and I was out in the woods, and there were a lot of trees kind of across the path, and I got a little bit worried about my safety, so I thought, okay, you know what? Maybe he should know where I am, just in case I slide down the cliff edge or something happens that I can't continue by myself, that he has a way to get back to me. That is literally the only situation that we've really need, like, that I intentionally decided to do it. So maybe there's something for the safety argument. Maybe not. I guess it's a personal reason, and whatever you want to do with each other. Actually, there was one comment here that I thought was really, really sweet. You have every right to feel secure in a relationship. Him attempting to shut off his location, demand privacy is going to stress you out, especially with his whole new change of plans nowadays. I have my husband's location, and he doesn't tell me where he's going every time, but I love that I can just check and see how far he is and whatnot. If I didn't have my husband's location, then I would be stressing every time he left. He has never cheated on me, but I had a bad past with another man, and I just have trust issues. My husband knows that and respects my sense of security by allowing him to know his location so that I can feel a sense of relief. If I were you, I'd be super suspicious. Literally, you just want to feel secure in your relationship. If he doesn't turn his location on, respect your needs, then I'd consider a lawyer. Now, on the one hand, I think this is a really sweet husband. I think it's really great that he is comfortable with that, and that he's trying, that he is happy to meet his wife halfway in terms of sharing his location with her, just so that she can feel that sense of security. I really hate the statement, literally, you just want to feel secure in your relationship. I don't think having unreasonable expectations of your spouse just for the sake of your own feelings is a good way to interact with people. And yes, again, he's super understanding, so that's awesome. Whatever people agree to do is fine. But if he felt like, hey, you know what, this seems to me like you don't trust me, and yes, maybe it's coming from a previous relationship that she had, then if I were her, I would want to process that emotion and try to get over it separately without having him be the person to compromise for my security or for my feelings of security. But it's great when people figure it out and they manage to make it work and they manage to agree on things without needing to think about it too much.